Yeah, they say anything's possible. You got a dream like you never seen obstacles. Chasing obscene profits, so we ain't stopping for the red lights. Look at my review, all I see is headlights. Catch me if you can. Whoa, they try and sack me and I scramble. Look up in the sky, you see exactly where I am, bro. Hey, don't you see me, man? Making my wishes come true. With no genie, man. I got the keys
getting
to
in the
my
gym,
Beamer with no beanie, man.
resting your body, mind, and soul. A lot of positive things to going forward to reach into, to strive for this new year. I say we all make a New Year's resolution to pay attention to people that are putting in work. And those people in specific, I want to talk about the people in Miami right now. Let's talk about the Miami Heat. Now, for the past few years, the narrative of Miami has been they've been a quite mediocre team. You know, a 500 team, showed glimpses of a pretty solid work. They had decent players with Hassan Whiteside. They had a declining Dwayne Wade coming off the bench. They had a decent supporting fan base. Now, they could have tanked. They could have restructured and tanked and done what the normal narrative was once a super team dissembles with LeBron James, Bosh, and company, and Dwayne Wade, of course. They could have tanked. They could have went down that route, but they muscled it out. And that's something that's admirable and respectable because this team is built, not bought. One may argue, oh, they signed Jimmy Butler, but with what? With developing assets to trade for Jimmy Butler. They picked up Josh Richardson from the G League and turned him into an asset that could be traded and flipped in the package deal for Jimmy Butler. This team is something special with a supporting cast of home drafted athletes. The second seed in the East, and it's remarkable to even say that Miami's the second seed in the East when you have teams like Philadelphia. When you have arguably the best big man in the league when healthy. When you have a 6'10" point guard and a supporting cast that Philadelphia has. When you have a team that potentially can make strides to be great in Boston. And then on top of that, when you have arguably, in my opinion, the greatest player in the league right now in Giannis at the helm, and you're stepping on their toes, Miami's up to something fantastic. They're 24-8 this year. Let me repeat that again. 24-8 this year. And those 8 losses, 5 of those losses were given by 10 points or less. So those losses were hard-fought losses that took everything the opposing team needed to win. Those teams being the Los Angeles Lakers. And we know how great the Los Angeles Lakers are. Their first, second units are spectacular. Not to mention they have the King, and they also have arguably the greatest power forward in the league right now, in Anthony Davis. They're 15-1 at home. And that's another point. Collectively, the Eastern Conference is not a weak conference anymore. They may not have the star power that the Western Conference may attain, but needless to say, they don't lose at home. Plenty of teams have spectacular records at home this season, and Miami has the best one at 15-1, and a winning record on the road with 9-7. I've been doing a lot of research, digging into Miami and seeing how they work, and I'm looking at their stats. I'm looking at how they rank among the other teams in the league. They're not spectacular in any category. You know, the only thing that stands out that they're first in any scoring category is that they're first in 3-point percentage shooting wise. And I believe they're sixth. They're now seventh in attempts. So they're not even shooting the ball as much as other teams. So they're efficiently scoring the ball, and they're not looking for stats. They have a dominant leader, but not a dominant scorer. And what I mean by that is that their leader is Jimmy Butler, but he's not playing for stats. Your star player, your most important player, is scoring 20.5 points per game. And you're 28-4. Let that sink in. How does this happen? Well, I'll tell you why. They have 7 players in double figures. And they trust their players. They let go of Hassan Whiteside and his horrid contract for Bam Adebayo. And he has nonetheless exceeded anyone's expectations outside of the Miami offices and the Miami fan base. They trusted undrafted rookies. They trusted Tyler Hero with the ball. We've seen what he could do shooting the ball. They have 2 Rookie of the Year candidates within their rotation right now. Miami's something to take serious. They may not have the star power and the flash and the glimmer, but one thing that they have that a lot of teams don't is camaraderie. When you look at a team on paper, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a fantastic team. And I think the best case of this would be last year's Boston Celtics team. When you have a supporting cast with a superstar like Kyrie Irving, you have 2 rising stars in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You have a veteran power forward / center in Al Horford that can take you to the playoffs, that has playoff experience. You have the gritty and grimy players that you need to support a team with Marcus Morris and Marcus Smart. You have backup big men in Aaron Baines and a decent scoring power forward in Daniel Tice. But if the camaraderie and chemistry doesn't work, it doesn't matter. That team was an atrocity, and this is everything that Miami's doing correct. They're not playing for stats. They're not playing for oneself. They're playing for each other. And it sounds very cliche, but it's a rarity thing. It's a rarity in the NBA now where people are playing for more than themselves. This is a very selfish league, and I feel like a lot of people don't acknowledge that. A lot of players are playing for stats. We could talk and have a debate one of these days on the Beats and Basketball podcast about, is Russell Westbrook's triple doubles that important? Because I'll stand by the hot take of if he didn't average a triple-double, other players could shine and grow and develop if the whole team wasn't surrounded by getting Russ's triple-double. I feel a lot of times where fans are so caught up in stats, they don't look at a team's chemistry. They don't look at the Spurs are the best example of this. People say, oh, Kawhi Leonard elevated his game. His game was always there. Yes, he improved his game. But in a system like San Antonio where Greg Popovich coaches, you have plenty of people in double figures, and no one exceeds more than 23 or 24 points per game. Tony Parker, Tim Duncan, and Manu Ginobili, they both averaged 19, 18, 20 points per game. At most. Why? Because it was systematically made where everybody touches the ball, where everybody scores, and there's multiple people you can rely on. And that's what's going on in Miami right now when you have 7 people averaging double figures. So that means 2 people off the bench are averaging more than 10 points. Let that sink in. The Los Angeles Lakers have 3 players in double figures this season. I think you could easily imagine 2 of them, one being LeBron, the second being Anthony Davis. And Kuzma averaging slightly north of 11 points per game this season, coming off the bench. Miami needs to be taken seriously before they creep up and defeat one of your favorite Eastern Conference teams come playoff time. And that is all we have on the Beats and Basketball podcast. Make sure to subscribe on Spotify and Apple Music. And make sure to check out Beats and Basketball on YouTube as well. Make sure to subscribe over there. We'll be back next time with more content and more basketball news. And we'll see you soon. It's Beats and Basketball.